Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Vance. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you how I recreated this structured A-line gown. So this was the one that I made for myself. So this is me when I wore it, guys. I had to do some touches on the gown. It's actually very beautiful. So if you're interested to learn how I made this, let's get right into the tutorial. So this is my pattern. I've gone ahead to mark out my starting line. I've drawn out all the points I need. So this is my shoulder line, this is my CL, that's my chest line, this is my waist line, this is my hip line, and then this is the full length of our gown. So for the full length of our gown, I actually used 34 inches for the full length. So guys, I've gone ahead now to mark out the shoulder measurement, which is 14 divided by 2 gave me 7. I marked it. I came down by 1 inch, and then to get my armhole line, I divided my bust by 6 plus 1.5. That's what gave me this chest line. So on this chest line, I'm going to be repeating my shoulder measurement, which is 7. I'll go ahead and use my ruler to connect it to the 1 inch shoulder slope I came down by. So from that point, guys, I'll get the midpoint of my armhole. I'll divide my tape like this, and then I'll mark, and then I'll come in by ½ inch to eliminate bulges around my armhole. I'll get my bust measurement divided by 4. I marked it, and then I'll connect these 3 points with my French curve to give me my armhole curve. So guys, after connecting my armhole, I'll go ahead and take my neck width. For my neck width, I'll be using 4.5 by 6.5. That's for my neck width and my neck depth. I'll go ahead and mark it and use my ruler to straighten the line just like this. So on that line I straightened, I'll go ahead and repeat my neck width, which is 4.5. I'll connect the points that I made together and use my ruler to connect it together. Then I'll go ahead and rule my shoulder slope line just like this. So for the back neck, I'll be using 1.5. So in this pattern, guys, I'll be drafting both back and front for this pattern. So I'll go ahead and connect my back neck depth and my back neck width together. So when I'm done with this, guys, I'll go ahead and take the dart measurement. So for my dart, I'll be using my nipple to nipple, which is 8 divided by 2, 4. I marked it. On my hip line, I'll still repeat the same 4 inches for my nipple to nipple. I'll mark it there, and then I'll go ahead and use my ruler and connect the points together just the way you see me doing. So when I'm done connecting this point together, guys, the next thing I'm going to do is for my waistline, I'm going to come up by 5 inches to get my bust point. So if you want to get your bust point, you can come up from your waistline by 5 inches. So when I marked it, I use my ruler to mark out the line just the way you see me doing, and then I'll go ahead and impute my BP, that's my bust point. After I'm done labeling it my bust point, I'll go ahead and use my tape, and I'm going to mark my 4 inches nipple to nipple. So when I marked it there, I'll use my ruler and now extend our line just like this. So from the waistline, guys, I'm going to come in by ½ inch on both sides. From the hip line, I'll come up by 2.5, just the way you see me doing, and then I'll go ahead and connect the points just like this. From that 2.5, I'll connect it to the waistline. From the waistline, I'll connect it to the bust point to get my dart. So after I was done with this, guys, remember I have already marked out my bust divided by 4. All I'm going to do is to add my allowance of 2 inches. So whatever I had on my bust, I'm going to repeat it on my bust point just like this. And then for my waistline, I'll divide my waist divided by 4, and then I marked it. I added my 2 inches allowance, and I went ahead to check what I have on the dart, and then I replaced my dart measurement. So for my hip, guys, my hip is 40. So 40 divided by 4 gave me 10. So I'll go ahead on my hip line and mark the 10 inches, and then I'll add my allowance of 2 inches there. Remember, it's an A line, so I'm still going to add more 2 inches allowance, making it 4 inches. So I'll go ahead and use my ruler and first connect the points together just like this before I now go ahead to mark my full length, take my full length measurement. So I'll go ahead and connect these points together. So when I'm done, I'll go to my full length and then I will check what I had on my hip mark. That was 14. I'm going to repeat it on the full length. I'll mark 14 just like this, and then I'm going to add extra 1.5 inches to give me that A line, that small A line shape. I don't know if you understand. So I added extra 1.5 inches to the full length of our gown to give me that A line feeling. So guys, at this point now where my tape is, I'm going to go ahead and divide this point. Why? Because I want to eliminate anything like bulges at that point. So I went ahead and I marked 1/2 inch on both sides, just the way you see me doing. And then I'm going to use my ruler and then I'm going to give it a dart. So that part, we are going to eliminate bulges around the neckline side. So for the length of our dart, I used 1.5, about 1.5, 1.6. That's what I used there. So guys, I'll go ahead and cut out. Remember, I'm first going to cut out the back before I cut out the front. So this is me cutting out. So this gown has a joining at the waistline. So when I'm done with this part, I'll go ahead and cut out the waistline just like this. So when I'm done with this, guys, I'll go ahead and cut out the back neck there like this. So after separating the upper part and the down part, I'll go ahead and open up this dart like this, and then I'll use my masking tape to tape the dart down. That's to close up the dart. So this was when I closed it up, and then I had to cut my masking tape. Then I taped it down just like this, and I'm still going to cut more of the masking tape so that it will hold the pattern paper very firmly. So guys, for this tutorial I'll be making use of 1.5 yard of crepe fabric and an interface, that's a gum stay. So guys, I went ahead to fold my fabric into two. I'll first of all cut out the back before I cut out the front. Remember, we cut the back first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and check my zip. For my zip, guys, I'll be making use of 2 inches. I checked it and I was satisfied. I went ahead to pin them down. That's to pin my pattern paper and my fabric together, so it's going to stay together without moving. When I'm done pinning down, I'll still recheck if the 2 inches zip allowance I added is in place. So when I found out that it was in place, I went ahead to start cutting out my fabric just the way you see me doing. So at this point, guys, I had to cut out excess of it because the pattern paper kind of moved away from the fabric. So I had to readjust it, repin it, and then I went ahead to cut out, and then I opened up my back zip allowance. So guys, I'll go ahead and remove the pins, and then I'll use my chalk to indicate my wrong side from my right side. So guys, when I'm done with this, I'll go ahead and remove my pattern paper, and then I'm going to set my fabric aside so that I can be able to cut the skirt part of our pattern. So I went ahead now to notch. This part is my dart, so I'm notching my dart. When I'm done notching it, guys, I'll also go ahead and notch my zipper allowance just like this. So I went ahead to fold my fabric again. I placed my skirt block on it, and then I went ahead to pin down. I'll still be using 2 inches allowance for my zip. So this was me readjusting the pattern paper so that it can suit the 2 inches allowance that I'll be setting aside. So when I was done, I went ahead to pin it down. When I'm done pinning, the next thing I'm going to do is to cut out. So guys, I'm going to be cutting out 1 inch at the flay, that's at the full length. I removed about ½ inch by the side, and then I added extra ½ inch at the upper part where I'm notching now. I added extra ½ inch for joining allowance of the upper block and the skirt part. I don't know if you get. So guys, for the front, I'll go ahead and close my dart just the way you see me doing. So I'm going to use my masking tape to close the front dart. I do not want the front to have a dart, like a dart. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but I went ahead to close my dart, and then I also went ahead to trim out my front neck depth just the way you see me doing. So when I'm done with this, I'll also go ahead and trim out my armhole, my front armhole, and then I'll also go ahead and close our dart. That's for the neck depth dart that I removed. So I'm going to go ahead and use my masking tape just like this and close up the dart, so it's to eliminate any form of borders around that area. So to cut the front, I'll go ahead and fold my fabric into 2 like this, place the pattern paper on it like this, and I'll go ahead and arrange it. So when I'm done arranging, I'll go ahead and pin them down so that the pattern paper and the fabric is going to stay put together. So when I'm done pinning down, guys, the next thing I'm going to do is to cut it out. So this is how it looks when I'm done cutting. I also folded my fabric, placed my front skirt pattern on the fabric like this. I'll also go ahead and pin down. So when I'm cutting this front front skirt pattern, I'm still going to go ahead and add ½ inch at the upper part of the skirt for the joining of the upper part of the basic block, that's our front block. I don't know if you get. I added ½ inch allowance at this point, just the way you see me doing, for the joining of the upper block and the skirt together. So when I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. And I marked out the wrong side of my fabric. So this is my lining piece, guys. I'll go ahead and cut out the lining of our front block. I'll do the same thing for the front, the back, and all our fabric will have a lining piece. So this is the front block. I'm going ahead to cut out the linings just the way you see me doing. So after I was done cutting this part, I set it aside to cut out the back block. That's the back skirt. So this is the back skirt that I'm cutting out right now with my lining. So when I'm done cutting it out, so I'm going to also go ahead and set it aside. So I notched the part that had notch. I had to notch the lining part too. And then I also indicated the wrong side of the lining from the right side. So for the front block, I placed it, I folded my lining, and then I placed my front block on it like this, and then I went ahead to cut my lining piece. So when I'm done, I also do the same thing for the back. So this is the back now. I've placed my main fabric on the lining, and then I'll go ahead and cut. So on the lining, I'm going to add my gum stay. For the skirt part, I used gum stay for the down part of the skirt, while for the upper part, I used paper stay as my interface. I used gum stay for the skirt part, so this is it. I've already gone ahead to infuse my gum stay on the lining, and then this the skirt part also, I also infused gum stay for all the skirt parts. So I'll go ahead and sew them by ½ inch, and then I'm going to show you how it looks like when I'm done sewing. So this is my upper part, guys. I used paper stay. I cannot use gum stay for the upper part and gum stay for the skirt part. It's not just going to make sense. So I had to use a paper stay for the upper part. So for the paper stay, I placed my lining right side facing the right side of the fabric together, and I went ahead to sew it down from the neck side down. So you can see I was done sewing it, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and set it aside like this, and I'll introduce my front block. So you can see I've also gone ahead to sew my front. So I'm trimming out the excess lining that came out in the front after I was done sewing. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do for the back block is I'm going to go ahead and close my zipper part for the back block. I'm going to close it down, and then I'm also going to go ahead and sew my dart, and then I'm going to show you how it looks like. So this is my skirt part, guys. I'll go ahead and close the zipper part 2 of my skirt. This is my front, so I have gone ahead to iron. So this is the back when I was done with the closing of the zip and the dart. I've also gone ahead to iron. So I'm trimming out the excesses that remained after I was done sewing. So the next thing I'm going to do, guys, is to take my shaping. So guys, for the shaping of this upper part, I'm going to use my bust and my waist measurement. So my bust divided by 4, I went ahead to mark it like this. I'll do the same thing for the other part. I'll mark my bust, and then for this down part, I'll mark my waistline divided by 4, and then I'll connect it just like this. I'll do the same thing for this other side. My waistline divided by 4, I'll mark it, and then I'll connect it just like this. So for my skirt part, I'm going to do the same thing, but just that the skirt part is different. So for my waistline, I'll repeat my waistline divided by 4. I'll mark it there, and then I'll do the same thing for this other side. My waistline, I'm going to divide it by 4. I marked it. Then I'll take the length of my hip, which is 10. I marked it. So I went back to my waistline to check what was remaining for me. So whatever that was there, that is what I use as my allowances. So this was it here. I was marking it down. So for the full length of the skirt, I just used 1 inch. I connected it. I'll do the same thing for the other part of the skirt. I'll go ahead and check what is left on my waistline. I marked my hip length, that's 10. So I repeated what was left on my waistline on these sides like this, the way I'm doing exactly. I'll connect the points together. So for the full length of my skirt, I just went in by 1 inch, and then I connected it to give me that A line. So I had to go back to recheck. So my hip is 40 divided by 4 is 10. The initial the thing I'm supposed to use, because I had to add extra 1.5 inch, is not a fitted gown, so I had to add extra 1.5 inch on it, so making it 11.5. So this part now is correct. 11.5 is correct. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my back block back skirt on my front part of the skirt, and then I'll go ahead and sew it down. So this is the upper part of our gown. So I'll go ahead and join shoulder to shoulder. I'll close it up, close the both shoulder up, and then I'm going to go ahead and shape my blouse. So this was when I was done with the skirt part. As you can see, I've ironed it. It's already giving us that A-line effect already, and it's looking all good. The gum stay actually gave it a bit of structure. So for the front part, I've also gone ahead to shape the front part. As you can see, it's all looking good, and I've also gone ahead to iron. So guys, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and introduce my skirt part and my upper part together. I'll go ahead and join it. So After joining it, this is how it looks. As you can see, it's all looking fine. So I'll go ahead and add my sleeve. Now, if you want more structure to this gown, all you need to do is to also add an interface on your main fabric. So you add interface on the main fabric and interface on the lining. It will give it more structure. So this was it when I added the sleeve. It's actually a simple sleeve, guys. So I'll go ahead and add my zip, and hola, that's the end of our tutorial. Please do well to subscribe, like my video, leave a comment in the comment section if you have any question for me, and I'll see you in my next tutorial. Bye, guys.